So, welcome to BW Healthcare World. On this special day of Doctors' Day, we have with us Dr. Aashish Choudhry, who is the Managing Director of Akash Healthcare Super Speciality Hospital, Dwarka. Welcome, Dr. Choudhry, to BW Healthcare
Thank you.
World. So,
Thank
for
you so much.
those of you who do not know Dr. Choudhry, he has demonstrated history of working in the hospital and healthcare industry for more than 20 years. He has graduated from Maulana Azad Medical College, post-graduated in orthopedics from Lady Harding Medical College, and also holds MRCS certification from the Royal College of Surgeons, Glasgow. Uh, he has also learned healthcare from the management from the Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. And Dr. Choudhary is practicing orthopedic surgery with expertise in performing knee replacement and hip replacement surgeries. Besides, Delhi Akash Healthcare has now opened its first of its kind multi-speciality hospital in Tashkent in Uzbekistan. Congratulations on that, Dr. Choudhary, and welcome to BW Healthcare World on this special Doctors' Day.
Thank you so much.
So, Dr. Choudhary, the theme for this year's Doctors' Day is healing hands and caring hearts. So let me keep my conversation around that.
Sure.
And the reason I want to, we wanted to speak with you is because apart from being a doctor, you also have the responsibility of running an institution. So what inspired you to establish your own hospital, and how does it reflect your personal philosophy of care in your institution?
So, the clinician, becoming a clinician was, right from the school days, my interest in biology was always there. And of course, my father wanted me to go the medicine way. And, luckily for me, first attempt, I got selected in Maulana Azad, and then there was no looking back. So, of course, with a lot of hard work, we entered into this field, not knowing that there's another pile of hard work waiting for us once you enter. So once you start your journey, and I started in 1996, almost 30 years completing. These fantastic 3 decades have been no less than a roller coaster drive, especially during your formative years when you are trying to finish your graduation, then go into post graduation, and then because I chose orthopedics, so it's a surgical field. So unless and until you hone your surgical skills, nobody comes to you. And very rightly going with your theme of the year, healing hands, caring hearts. For a surgeon, it holds all the more true that you know whatever you study, whatever you achieve academically, taking care of a patient and making them go back home happily smiling and in corrected form, it requires more than just textbook knowledge. It requires a lot of compassion in doing the best for your patient. Also taking the right decision in today's competitive world and a corporate world. It becomes a very daunting task for any clinician to actually balance both the things. On one side, there is a empathetic behavior, which is too much required for any clinician to express, and being very sympathetic with the problem of their patients. And also, me being into the managerial position, one has to make sure that a private healthcare institution also keeps surviving, become self-sufficient. So idea is that striking a balance of finances and clinical quality, I think it always rests on the core, how well you are treating your patients. I always feel that financial stability or financial outcomes or the return on investment or return on equity is always a byproduct of what you do with your patients. So if your core is right, rest everything falls in place automatically. That's what has been the philosophy from the day one when I started this institution, with no previous background of how to run a hospital from the scratch land, plain land, going up till -3 to 8 floors. That was brick by brick every day. I gotten used to the project stage, and then it was just like a baby getting delivered. So we always wanted that we should start operational as soon as possible, because the pregnancy stage was too painful to wait. It was too long, too expensive. And the moment we went live, we realized that project phase was much easier because operationally there are so many daily issues where, as a clinician, I know what the clinician is looking for, what the patients want. But as an administrator also, I have to see that, the processes are being followed, the quality of the care being delivered, the patient experience at the end of the day should be good. And we are complying with the national accreditation standard also, so which are mainly focused on the safety of the patient treatment. So I am kind of a bridge between the clinicians and the non-medical managers which we have. So that gives us one extra edge, wherein which is slightly different from a corporate hospital, which is just managed by a corporate team, where I at times, I take a decision for a clinician, for a surgeon, for a particular instruments in the OT. I take a decision in 5 minutes because I know it's without that the quality of care or surgical delivery will not be good, even if the ROI may not make sense in first go. If that decision goes to a corporate team, they always look at ROI. So somehow this model is has worked for us in last 6 years, and we have been able to, in fact, if you talk about clinical quality, more than 8 lakh patients have already been treated. COVID was one fantastic time to express the hard work which a young team can do. So
Correct.
it was a new disease for everyone, be it Apollos and Max of the world. So we, as a young team at heart, all the surgicals who were not doing surgeries at that time, they focused together with the medical team and respiratory team, and we did save more than 10,000 lives during 3 peaks of COVID, and that gave us a lot of confidence as a young team that we can do something great. So I feel that running an institution and also making sure the quality doesn't go down and the patient experience at the end of the day remains intact. That requires a lot of firefighting, a lot of focus on processes. Gradually over the years, we have come of age. We have developed good amount of processes in all verticals of healthcare management. My degrees and everything, definitely they came handy, but actually the on ground experience is something which is irreplaceable.
And Dr. Chaudhary, you use this word empathy and you use another word called teams. You know, so how do you ensure that your hospital fosters a culture of compassion and empathy among its staff as well? I can understand you as a leader at the institution and being a doctor yourself, but since you mentioned that you were talking about non-medical staff, how do you foster that culture as a part of the institution among every employee who works there?
So first and foremost is that I always believe that we have a employee strength of more than 1,500, and if I feel they are happy, they will keep our patients also happy. So there are a lot of activities which happen on a daily basis, which engages with employees at different levels. There are many touch points where we try to connect with the nursing staff, the doctors, the support staff, where we address their daily routine, small little concerns. Appraisal is one thing which happens everywhere, but how do you engage, how do you have motivation and appreciation going on beyond a financial gain? So those activities have really helped us bind with them on a lot of formal and informal platforms. So empathy, if you talk about the patient, yes, it has to be there even with the staff. So more so the staff realizes when they themselves or their family members fall sick and they come back to the hospital where they work, and if they find some extra care, they find that yes, I am working at a right place, that my parents were also looked after very well, and they go back and get a feedback from their own family members. That's something which drives them to continue working here. And compassion, I mean, for both the things, I think one has to lead by an example. So my 16 hours of the day are invested in the hospital, and I am the first one to enter, last one to go. At least for the last 7 years I've been doing that. And that even the clinical team, when I sit with them, talk to them about something which a doctor doesn't understand about the numbers or something, they listen to me. At least they give me a patient ear, and then we discuss and find a common ground where we both agree. So if you are one of them, one among all those people, because always doctors think that how can a MBA teach us how to treat a patient? We are the best judge. So here somebody comes in, he says, okay, I am having the maximum number of OPD, I'm doing maximum number of surgeries along with you, and now here is a management problem which I want your inputs and your involvement. Without your involvement, it is not going to get solved. So that's the approach I have been following, and it has a lot in last 7 years, and probably that is one of the reasons for early success and getting a good patient footfalls.
And Dr. Chaudhary, what measures do you take on daily basis to maintain the patient-centric approach that is required in the hospital?
So, see, there are two aspects. One is if the patient gets the right treatment. Of course, uh, there is a culture of a daily interdepartmental round, which includes right from the medical superintendent, nursing superintendent, then the support staff manager, security, and F&B, and all those touch points where every day the patient interacts with the staff. So on an average, we calculated there are around 30 people, patient or the attendant interacts in a day. So the representatives of those departments meet the patient every single day. And yes, of course, it's not a perfect world. We get a lot of complaints. So on an average, 60% of the complaints are resolved the moment they are raised within next 2 to 3 hours. The moment while patient is admitted, we solve that problem. Sometimes patient raise the complaint at the time of discharge or even after going back home. So those are addressed very aggressively by our patient experience team, and and that complaint directly lands on our emails, including my email, on a daily basis every day in the morning. That's the first thing I see. And if there are four complaints, so we have to address to a particular department, and they address and they call back. They make sure they call back. So all the feedbacks are given due importance, whether it is small, big, and if there are some changes, gross changes which are required, we do it and we send the proof of that change to that particular patient. So that's how those learnings we are doing every day. Yes, every day there is a new set of challenge we face. There are a lot of attrition keeps happening, 10 to 12% turnaround over a year. So we have to keep training the staff on various modules, not just the medical or the clinical modules, but one important thing which we have inculcated is the soft skills, especially for the security and nursing and the GDS staff, who are of course coming from a background where they are totally unaware of soft skills, how to interact with the patient ailing or a pain, somebody in pain. So those soft skill training is given across all boards. Yes, doctors are still away from that. That's what we are trying to do. So we are having a Doctors' Day interaction, informal interaction. So I'm trying to get their buy-in that they also learn some soft skills. Few surgeons, especially the big guns, they don't listen to anyone. Yeah, so I have to request them to come on board. That soft skill is something which goes beyond specialities. Even the doctors, if they talk nicely, even a big surgeon who has got a great fan following, if he talks nicely, it's only going to improve his popularity. That's what I feel.
That's a very valid point, Dr. Chaudhary. But and you spoke about complaints and addressing complaints, and you also mentioned that the big doctors do not listen to the needs, as aggressively as we would love them to. But you know the biggest complaint that most patients have, and that's what I've observed during my last few conversations with doctors, is that doctor time nahi deta hai, doctor touch bhi nahi karta hai, and that's the biggest complaint. And we are now moving towards tech advancements in healthcare, which is actually taking the doctor even further away from the patient. How are you addressing this? So, I mean, how do you keep the balance between tech advancement as well as keeping the touch with the patient?
So very rightly pointed out at this stage that when the first year of operation, we were trying to implement the electronic medical record system, wherein we have to type everything so that everything gets recorded in the system. So all the doctors, including me, rejected that thing that whether I should look at patient and talk or I should type on the computer. I mean, it cannot happen simultaneously. So, uh, but since the digitization is a necessary evil where we have to adopt in one way or the other, yet maintain the conversation. One thing which I feel, even in today's advanced world, tech world, the patient is still very conservative when it comes to interaction or having a consult with a doctor, where I also accept many a times when you are in too busy, so many patients are waiting. Sometimes you forget to do that very typical or a simple clinical examination. For example, for a low back pain, if you have not touched the patient, if you have not felt where the patient is feeling pain, I mean, sometimes patients raise that thing, and that is the time when you should step back and think about it. So there is a very nice article by Harvard Business Review on the power of touch for a physician. So that touch is so important in doctor-patient relationship, especially in a consult, that one should at least spend the minimum few minutes on addressing the core problem with which the patient has come. Because unless you do that, you just while sitting and talking to the patient, if you just imagine to reach to your desk, how much preparation that patient has done, booking an appointment 2 or 3 days before, taking out time, reaching to the hospital at least 1 hour prior, they must have started, maybe skipping half day of their work, then getting the billing done, waiting here 40 minutes and coming inside. So that much of effort, and if you don't even examine for 2 minutes, I think you are doing injustice to a particular patient. So I feel that power of touch still holds true even after maybe 100 years of the allopathic practice. That should always remain. That should be remaining. Because as far as the emotion and empathy remains among the patient, and they want the clinician, they have, in fact, the moment they have, come in your room for consultation, they have already given their consent that please examine my problem, whatever it is, male or female, irrespective of that. When they enter into this holy association, they have already given their consent for you to examine. If you don't do that minimum also, then you lose the confidence of the patient. Even if you are a great surgeon, they will not get operated by you. They'll not get convinced with your method of treatment unless that touch, the feeling, that compassion, that, the association starts with the touch. That has to be there. And I try to maintain that. Yes, COVID was some time when it was forced upon teleconsultation. Now, the moment the COVID has gone down, suddenly the teleconsultations have slashed down by almost 90%. That's the only reason why people don't get satisfied just by logging on to the service. They don't get that feel, don't get the vibe, what the doctor's body language and how he's communicating you about the disease and the treatment plan. So I think whatever happens, whatever digital age happens, unless we become robots without empathy, the feeling of touch or the power of touch is here to stay.
And Dr. Chaudhary, I'll go back to what you mentioned earlier that some of the senior doctors, they do not listen uh, to whatever is being told, even for their benefit. And they have a reason to do so because they're so busy. They have so much of inflow of patients. वो कहते हैं हमारे पास टाइम ही नहीं है, हम क्या करें? So, what do you think as a hospital leader, business leader, needs to be done to ensure that patients also get that psychological comfort by visiting that doctor, and the doctor is also not under pressure because of so many patients waiting? So, it's like a
So I
catch 22 situation.
So I give you my own example. When I have to see around say 30 to 40 patients in 3 hours, and every patient, sometimes patient takes 40 minutes also, sometimes patient takes 10 minutes as well. So what I've done is, so there are, out of those 40 patients, there are 40% of the patients who are coming for a follow-up. They are surgical patients. They want to get the dressing done. So one of a sane, a good, middle-level surgeon is always with me, who takes care of that particular aspect, and he also knows how to talk, how to behave, how to build a connect with that patient, so that they also accept him as a part of me. Okay. And when they start accepting, so over a period of last 1 year, I have seen that. So my time of writing prescription, doing little things for that first follow-up or second follow-up, all that time is saved. So that even if I have to spend 2 minutes or 5 minutes with that patient, I am only interacting with them. They are not bothered about what's written in the prescription. They value those 4 minutes more than anything which I write or he writes. But majority of that part, counseling and everything, which can be done by a middle level surgeon who is competent enough, and then you get to save 10 minutes by his intervention, and you are still able to give them a 4 minutes patient hearing to understand their any particular other issue which probably the other surgeon might have missed, you add on to that, and that completes the entire interaction. So that's how, and we keep on following the waiting times of other surgeons, busy surgeons, and we follow the same thing. We do that, the same practice for other surgeons as well.
And Dr. Chaudhary, my last question to you is on your dual role. You are working as a surgeon, a doctor, a medical practitioner, and you also have an institution to run. And to ensure that you run this institution sustainably, you need to ensure that the financials are kept in place, the profits are there so that you can invest to make an institution which is better and improving with every passing year. How do you balance your roles between these two responsibilities? And also, how do you consciously ensure that you are ensuring profitability for the institution without getting into profiteering through malpractices?
Very rightly put across. So, of course, the profits, fortunately, for last 6-7 years, what I have been focusing upon is, okay, what are the number of admissions? What is the A loss? How fast the patient is going back home? And what are the feedbacks? So if you are able to maintain your turnaround time, if you're able to maintain the average length of stay, if you're able to maintain at least 85% of occupancy, and your feedbacks are still going strong, they are positive more or less, I think uh, all these culminate into a reasonable amount of profitability. And profiteering is a very short term game. Every single patient, even in a single episode, they understand what is the difference between what profiteering and what the hospital is actually doing. So that's a very short lived game. So I think if somebody really wants to have a sustainable model, they focus on the better turnarounds, they focus on their feedbacks, they keep an eye on the feedback, and they make sure that their 85% of beds are occupied. One extra additional thing which I always follow, we try to have 50% of surgical patients. So that gives us a reasonable breathing space, and we are able to maintain the rest. So after doing these four things, I always monitor these four things. I've never monitored what is lying in the bank, because I am sure if these four things are good, the bank is doing well.
Dr. Chaudhary, thank you so much for taking our time to speak with us on the Doctor's Day. I think you've brought in a very important aspect of how successfully a doctor can also fulfill the business requirement of the institution that they run. And very beautifully, you also spoke about the soft skills and this, fulfilling the compassion and psychological needs of the patient who has made an effort and coming over to you by choosing you over any other institution that they could go to. So I think that's a very powerful thing. Uh, Thank you so much for taking out time, Dr. Joji. It's been a pleasure to speak with you.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.